Hello everyone. Today I will be discussing the horrifying attacks that occurred in Paris, France. On the evening of November 13th, 2015, a series of terrorist attacks occurred in Paris, France. Killing almost 130 people, these incidents were one of the deadliest violent attacks to hit France since World War II. The first of the 7 attacks occurred near Stade de France. During a soccer game between France and Germany, 2 explosions that were 4 miles apart were heard in the stadium. The French president was evacuated from the stadium, however, fans were kept inside. Since it had been unclear of the situation outside, it was decided to continue the game because the soccer stadium seemed to be the safest area for people to stay because security was assured. After the game had finished, fans were able to leave the stadium in small groups. All supporters of the game had eventually been notified of the violence outside of the stadium, which prompted some citizens to panic. However, the crowd had evacuated the area within an hour and a half. One of the attackers was denied entry into the Stade de France stadium by a Muslim security guard by the name of Zuhair, who discovered the explosives on the attacker. It was believed that this attacker wanted to enter the stadium and blow it up. The first attacker ended up detonating his suicide vest and blowing himself up. The second attacker, that was initially inside of the stadium, blew himself up outside of the stadium using his explosive vest. The last attacker detonated his vest near a McDonald's restaurant. Sadly, 1 civilian died in the Stade de France attack. The attack then moved to central Paris, where another team of gunmen opened fire on the Petit Cambodge Cambodian restaurant and across the street at the Le Carillon bar. The 2 venues had been packed with people on a Friday night. Without any hesitation, the extremists shot at diners and revelers at the restaurant and bar, killing a total of 15 innocent civilians. These attacks left people confused and shocked to have an incident like this occur at such a fun and loving environment. Finally, officials directed civilians to evacuate the dangerous area as well as nearby bars and restaurants. Citizens were told to avoid the horrifying assaults at all times and to not leave their homes. The following attack took place by the same team of gunmen at a popular pizzeria called Casa Nostra. The gunmen slaughtered 5 innocent people whom were diners. Many people overwhelmingly watched their city crumble down minute by minute as the strikers calmly drove away after each assault to continue their raid of attacks. The next burst of gunfire occurred at a popular bistro called La Belle Equipe, which is located east of the city center. The restaurant was at a full capacity of people enjoying their dinner when the gunmen were shooting outside of the La Belle Equipe. The attackers aimed for soft targets, which seemed to be the people who were sitting at the terrace of the cafe. The shooting lasted 3 minutes, killing as many as 19 people. The attackers finally left the scene, but were once again headed to a different location to attack. Minutes after La Belle Equipe attack, a suicide bombing occurred at a cafe called Comptoir Voltaire, south of Boulevard Voltaire. The attack left 1 person dead at the scene, and it is believed that that 1 person was the terrorist. The final and bloodiest assault occurred at the Bataclan Concert Hall, where Eagles of Death Metal were playing. The assault began at the back of the venue, where 3 men were dressed in all black and tan suicide vests sprayed their bullets into the crowd. The attack lasted 2 hours and 40 minutes when police finally ended the siege. The third extremist was shot and killed by officers. Finally, a SWAT team entered the concert hall, but the 2 terrorists had already retreated to the upper floor. Police evacuated as many people as possible out of the auditorium. The scene was described as a bloodbath that left 89 people dead at the hall. The final two extremists blew themselves up using their suicide vests. When the attacks finally came to an end, 129 people were reported dead and 352 people injured. The Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, or ISIS, was responsible for the attacks in Paris. The goal of ISIS each time is to make a surprise attack, inflict maximum casualties, as well as spread as much fear as possible. ISIS is a group that is supposedly strictly faithful to the Quran and believes that they need to fulfill the roles of the apocalyptic theories. Furthermore, they want worldwide territory control and establish a caliphate. A real Muslim who is knowledgeable about Islam knows that they must handle all conflicting situations in a civil and peaceful manner. From this, I am not sure how these ISIS members are considered to be Muslim when they are killing people, including other Muslims. In relation to the Paris attacks, those responsible for the killings in the Stade de France attack were three ISIS members by the names of Bilal Hadfi, Ahmad al-Mohammed, and M. el-Mahmoud. All three attackers at Stade de France blew themselves up using their suicide belts. The attackers responsible for the restaurant and bar incidents were Ibrahim Abdeslam, Abdelhamid al-Aboud, and an unnamed attacker. Abdeslam and the unidentified attacker blew themselves up as well using their suicide vests, and Aboud was shot and killed by police. The attackers responsible for the attack at the Bataclan Concert Hall were Omar Mustafi, Sami Amimour, and an unnamed attacker. All of these attackers also blew themselves up using their suicide vests. And then the last two attackers were Salah Abdeslam and Mohammed Abrini, who were both drivers for the suicide attackers, but they are still on the run. Since the attacks in Paris, the French Prime Minister has condemned the attack as an act of war and stated that he will be relentless toward the members of ISIS. French President Hollande held a 3-day national mourning after the attacks and heavily increased France's security nationwide. Furthermore, France has already started bombing cities in Syria and Iraq that ISIS took over as a part of the US-led coalition and has troops fighting extremists in Africa. Finally, he announced renewed border checks that are normally opened under Europe's free travel zone. As Prime Minister of France, I would increase security all throughout France, just as Holland has, whether it's at events such as concerts and even public restrooms. I would also prohibit the entrance of any refugees until the country is peaceful and until new ground safety rules and laws have been enforced. Finally, I would organize peaceful and public events that raised awareness about the damage left in Paris in hopes to stabilize and reform the beautiful city back to normal. In terms of retaliation, I do not believe that violence would help Paris become more stable because it could lead to more violence, threats, and plots toward the already damaged country. Therefore, I would not send troops to help defeat ISIS until the country is more stable. As President of the United States, I would increase security in the United States since ISIS wants global annexation. I would increase security in public places such as concerts, malls, and movie theaters. As leader, I would also implement background checks on all people entering the United States, even if they are visiting family or vacationing. In order to help both Paris and the rest of the world beat violence, I would deploy troops to help other countries defeat ISIS. My hopes are that one day our world will finally be at peace. Thank you all for listening to my presentation, and I hope you have a great week.